Welcome, everybody, to your Badass Journey podcast. Today, I have a unique conversation, and it's going to be part of the series where I bring in partners in business, and we talk about how they are badass in their own right and how they came together to join forces and build badass companies. And of course, I had to bring on the show the founders of Badassery Magazine and Podcast. So welcome, ladies. I have Kathy and Samantha here. And what I love to do to kick things off, just so people know more about you, is basically what was your journey up into where you came together as partners in this business? And I guess, Kathy, we'll start with you first.
Well, I was working a full-time job and I was an event planner. I'd been an event planner for years. It was something that was like my dream job. I had wanted to be an event planner and plan weddings and big, corporate events and just, and there's a lot of people out there that sounds like it's a really fun thing to do, right? So, and so that's what I wanted to do. And I got into event planning. I started working for venues and I had worked my way up to like what I thought was my ultimate goal was being a director of events for a space, an event space. And I was like, this is my dream job. This is everything I've ever wanted. I finally made it. Why am I so miserable? Mm-hmm. And I would, instead of, thinking of all the things that I would be, that someone would typically do if they found their dream job, like be happy all the time, I would be working, 12, 14-hour days. And after work, I would be sitting in my car in the parking lot before I even drove home. And I would just be in tears because I was so miserable. Mm-hmm. And I decided that at the same time, I wanted to really do something for me. I just didn't want to work and be achieving someone else's goals. Like the things I was working toward in being an event director wasn't what I wanted. It was what the company wanted. And so I decided to start my own business. And a friend of mine, we were kind of on this journey together. And she is like, well, you're really good at the strategy part. Like you're really good at helping people figure out how to do, if they have an idea, how to like implement those ideas. Like, you're right. I love that. It's just exactly like event planning, except it's conceptual instead of like physical, right? So I took the methodology that I used to plan events and turned it into a system where I would help people to implement their ideas. And it's something that we actually still use with in our Badassery Magazine courses vault today. But I started a business from it. And at that same time, I had been going to, trying to get educated and going to events and going to conferences. And in fact, I was introduced to Samantha at one of those conferences where we both lived in Utah at the time. And so that was really we just have a mutual friend and we're introduced and we did meet each other in real life, even though we didn't live in the same city. But it just kind of started from there.
That's beautiful. I love that you took the gumption or the energy of not being happy and satisfied and then channeled it into such a satisfying and fulfilling venture. So many people stay stuck in the what's not working that they feel like they don't have the leverage to jump into what does. So that's really cool about your journey. I appreciate you sharing, and also how you met Samantha. So Samantha, how about you? Like up until the point you met Kathy, what did that lead?
Well, that's really a loaded question when you think about it, because our journeys are so much more than like, oh, I used to work a job or I used to do this, right? So it's like, I feel like I've been on this journey and this path for the last, 33 years, because that's all the years I got under my belt. And so it's really, when I think about my journey, it's been a composition of all these like significant events in my life that have really kind of built me into the person that I am and have led into this beautiful space that Kathy and I have got to create together. So I was kind of like Kathy too, where I was like, my journey was coming to an end. Literally, I wanted to end my life and I didn't want to live that way anymore. And that was probably one of the biggest catalyst moments. And that's what started me into the online world was no longer wanted to live under a glass ceiling. I no longer wanted to build things for other people. And so I set out to build something for myself. And in the process, Kathy and I, we came together and we met in between then when we were both building our own businesses. But then in the catalyst of that, we've gotten to create something that's so much bigger than just us.
I think that's beautiful, and taking that level of dissatisfaction again, but also knowing something else is out there, right? Like they could be a different way, and navigating that together. And I'm curious, when you joined forces or when you met at this conference and you were like, hey, we might have something here in common or something that we could do collectively, what was the foundational step in, I guess, launching? Badassery Magazine came first, correct? Like so tell me a little bit about the journey of forming the business then.
Yeah. So we actually were focused on we were actually focused on starting our own businesses, and neither one of us knew what we were doing. We were working, trying to do all the things and go through all the motions. And I was really struggling with, because I still had my full-time job, I was really struggling with managing all of the little things. And one of the little things I couldn't really get my head around was social media management, which happened to be Samantha's business, So I decided to hire her. I need someone to do that for me. And so I hired her to manage my social media. And then as my business grew and I was able to quit my full-time job, I was in that, that period of time where it's like, you're trying to still get enough clients to support yourself. So I wasn't able to continue having her be my social media manager. Mm-hmm. But she was already in the process of developing some of her own ideas for her business and developing some things. So we decided to trade services. So she still did my social media management, but I was helping her develop some new ideas that she had for her business. And that kind of working together on that level, we got to know each other really well, and we got to know how we work together really well, and we became really good friends. And I think that was the thing that helped the most when we decided to start Badassery. Was we were really good business besties, basically. And it wasn't Badassery Magazine didn't even start up let's start a business, let's start a magazine. It didn't even start like that. In fact, I'll let Samantha tell the story of that part of it, because it really came from her. It was really her idea initially.
Yeah, so I kind of just got fed up with the way that women were working together online, and I knew that there had to be a better way to do things. And at the time, it was this really popular strategy, and I don't even see it anymore. So I'm glad someone burned it and someone called them out, and they were like, no more. And it went out into the universe, and it was no more, But it was the whole, if you get published on a popular blog, then your business will be successful. And so there was courses on it and everything, submitting all these original blog posts. So I'm okay, so I'm supposed to spend 20 hours a day writing 12 different incredible original blog articles, and I can only submit those 12 blogs, and I'm supposed to do it for the rest of my life, because that's how it felt. There's no way that's physically impossible. When you look at the standards that people wanted for their blog, it was seriously, go shove that up your ass, And I was there has to be a better way that we all do this together. And so I had the idea for Badassery Magazine while I was just getting ready in the morning. And I was like, oh, what if I created a magazine and everybody could submit to it and there wasn't a gatekeeper? I was like, oh my God, that's how life should be, right? Nobody else should ever be determining someone else's success ever, period. And so Kathy, I sent the memo to Kathy mostly being is this a good idea or a bad idea? How you bounce ideas off your business bestie? Yeah. And she was like, oh yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So then 45 days later, Kathy put out an issue of Badassery Magazine, and the rest is history. So
we put it out.
Yeah, she designed the layouts, which was a skill I didn't have. So I went out and I gathered the people in the articles. So yeah, it's definitely been a team collaboration.
That is so beautiful. And it is something that, exudes in your online group or your community, I will call it. The Badassery community is so awesome because there are not that many places you can go where you can boast about who you are, what you do, what services you put out in the world, looking for the right partnerships, especially, women coming together to do it for each other, with each other, and build similar business besties, as you call it, in this realm. I mean, it is so challenging, especially the mindset of, well, it's already been done, so like, why should I do it? Or 10 other people do it and look at all their success. Why should I try? There's all this mindset work that needs to be done to say, hey, it's your thing. You're the unique part of it. Show up, share it, and let's see where it leads. And having that as a beacon, for women in business and sharing their badass sides and putting it forward. I mean, it's consistent with what you guys put out, which I love, and also so needed. So you're filling a space that it is growing exponentially. I do see that, as I observe your guys' growth and also engage, with all that are in the group. So tell me, let's tell our listeners, because some people have not maybe come across Badassery Mag yet. What is the construct, and who do you really want to attract in so that you can continue to exponentially impact other people's lives and businesses with what you're doing?
Well, we built the magazine to be really more than a magazine. We wanted it to be a community, like we have our Facebook group, but it's really for women in business or female entrepreneurs who are feeling the same way we did when we started our businesses. Like, they don't want to play by other people's rules. They feel like they have this purpose they need to fill in their life, and owning a business is a vehicle to do that and to have that fulfilled life. And it's not that, working so hard and achieving all of these things to be successful in some point in the future. It's like owning what you have right now and using the tools you have right now so that you can be successful right now in your life. And so that is the whole kind of premise behind Badassery. In fact, the definition of badassery that we use is the Urban Dictionary definition. And it is engaging in seemingly impossible activities and achieving success in a manner which renders all onlookers completely awestruck. And that was kind of yes, when you hear that, you're like, yeah, that is badass. That's total badassery. Uh-huh. And it just kind of sums up what we believe in. The magazine itself, it's on our website at badasserymag.com. And then we also have a Medium publication, Badassery Magazine on medium.com. So.
And then what do you think is what energy does it bring to you both each day to be, running this as partners?
Well, if you look at it from a partner perspective, it means that I don't have to do it all alone, and I don't think to have a successful business, you don't need, hashtag or air quotes, need a business partner. But what it does is it really enables you to work on the things that you're really good at and let them work on the things that they're really good at. And then it gives you that dynamic team, right? So a lot of people have glamorized. Is that the word? I was going to say glamorized. That has to be a word too. I like them both. A lot of people have glamorized, the word solopreneur. And, there's solopreneur podcasts, there's solopreneur courses, solopreneur, I'm a solopreneur. And they're wearing it like this badge of honor. And I think it's a bunch of bullshit. Nobody truly is a solopreneur. Does that mean you have a business partner? It may or may not. But I guarantee you have a VA or you have a friend you're bouncing ideas off of, or I bet you've talked to your mom about that business you're going to start, or called up your dad or whoever. Nobody is truly a solopreneur. There's even a book about being a company to $1 million as a solopreneur or something like that. And I'm like, oh, come on. Who printed your book? Who built your website, dude? You are not, only sleeping an hour a day unless you're on some sort of pills. So being in a relationship with a business partner really adds a whole new dynamic to it. And the fact that if I'm having a really rough day, I can be like, listen, Kathy, this is really hard. And she's like, I know, girl, but we still got this,
Yeah.
And then someone to celebrate your successes with too. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting. We tend to have the little mini meltdowns on an opposite schedule. So yesterday was my turn, and next week it'll be Samantha's turn. We're just take turns. It's awesome.
I think that's so key because you have to have your tribe. Your entrepreneurial tribe, which is really what you also build online yourselves, is that ability to lean on. When you want to grow, you're going through a growth spurt. You're like, I'm uncharted territory, man. Will you be my life raft for a hot second? There's an ability to, when you open yourself up and say, I don't have all the answers, and I don't want to do it alone. And you can't. Business does not grow by yourself. That means you have no clients. That means you have no services, no systems behind it. No, you don't have an online presence like that. If you're doing it alone, I bet you're capping your earnings as well. And there's the language in if you're not continually growing yourself, and then you grow with your business doesn't grow, right? And then if you as partners also are not growing together, your business doesn't grow. It all affects the bottom line. And I think it's so relevant to have as a discussion with folks who feel like because of burnout, with both of you came from unhappiness, let's call it, prior to this navigation of how do you create what is yours, and feel like so burnt out from all these other systems and processes or companies I worked with or people I hung out with, and the trust is lost to believe that who matches your energy is out there to build together, is something that we have to overcome. It is critical to find that support structure. And when you find it in partners, and that's why, I adore the way you two come together and put it out there every day, even through the pain, right? Even through the struggle, because someone else will benefit from that and go find their business bestie and create new partnerships or engage in services that align with what they're looking for. And it is so key to grow that way. So it's awesome that you're both doing it and you share your journey along the way, right? So because you're not in it alone. And I don't remember the exact number with all the people as part of the community. You guys are definitely not alone with how many people are in there.
Yeah, right now we, as of the recording of this, we're over 17,000 people in all of our different various outlets. So it's really exciting to have be part of that many people, bringing them together. I think it's kind of humbling.
If you were to give folks a tool or a tip and how to assess, the right partner for them or the right service to engage, what is it that each of you look for before you say, yeah, I could partner with that person, or, that they're aligned with what I'm trying to achieve? Is there anything, do you guys have any go-to methods around that?
I don't think there's a formula. I'm sure you could Google one and find one, but I think that you really just genuinely need to like the person. It goes a long ways. I've learned though with people we bring on as support members of our team, they're not necessarily our friends per se because they're employees of us and they work for us and there needs to be a divide there, but you have to genuinely like the person. And I think people should just really trust themselves a little more instead of trying to talk themselves one way or the other. They just need to trust that what they're doing is going to work out. And if it doesn't, there's permission to pivot and move the other way.
Yeah, I would definitely say liking the person is the number one. If you can't work closely with them, because it's almost like you're married. I mean, you have to make those kinds of decisions with them, and you have to have that level of trust. And it's we joke that we're work wives because we really have to make those kind of decisions, and we have to have the same, we have to kind of be on the same vibe. You have to almost have that well, I know what Samantha would say about this, or you know her so well that I know what she's going to say about this, or you can anticipate things, and getting on that same kind of vibe is so important. That's why before we even started our business, like we had worked together for over a year. So, I mean, it was something where it's like, you just don't hop into marriage with the first person that you go out with. Right. So I just like, take it slow.
Yeah. Most people don't, but I would say, as an executive and leadership coach in my practice, when I do work with partners, what I love to do is just like you said, it's almost like your prenup. If we were to outline like all the different things I'm about, let's hang out for a little bit, let's know each other better. There's a method to also organize when shit hits the fan and it's going bad. How are you going to react to that? And outline it up front so that when things get hard, because in business, it definitely gets hard. In our personal lives going on, it gets hard. And we sometimes bring that into our business. We're human. We want to figure out that alignment to say, hey, when I'm under stress, I get into such a controlling mode and I become a complete ass sometimes. Like I might say the wrong things. I might rub you the wrong way, but just know that that's where I'm at. And let's talk about how to balance that reaction between us so we're still effective. And talking about that stuff up front is the relational piece in partnership that is really great that you're talking about, because you became friends first through service. Like one of you was servicing another's need and then found that the other had a need for a service for the other need. And then you realize, wait, other people have these needs. So like, how can we make that a service business or service practice? And it's really beautiful because I think to take a pause as partners and say, how can we make this partnership better, stronger, and rely on each more, especially because you guys aren't co-located anymore. You're no longer in the same state. It sounds like you were never really co-located to begin with. So to build an online partnership or remote partnership, tell me a little bit about how you guys kind of function through all that. Is there
Yeah, totally. I think I'd like to add though to what you're saying is like, you also have to realize that people are people. So they might be going through a stressful situation. So like in, just their life, because our lives are so entwined when we're building businesses that sometimes they're going to react a certain way that, and so it's like people are people and feelings are feelings, So you also have to give that a little bit of credit too. There's no magical formula. It's like, just go through it, So there's this powerful thing. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called the internet. And so you really can do whatever the hell you want and create whatever you want, even if you live on the other side of the globe. And we live in such a great abundance time where it's like, oh, technology, we could FaceTime on our phones. Like we hang out a lot in Slack. So like I can, Kathy's at my fingertips. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then at the same time, I love it because I have so much freedom. And so does Kathy. I'm like, I don't think she has any idea what I was doing before this call, other than I was slacking her like a mad woman. So she knows like, how sometimes you're like, oh, by the way, I did this and this and this. But most of the time, like I could like go sit at the park. I could go like, I could have left on a trip. And I mean, of course I tell her because we have a great relationship, but I have like all this freedom where it's like, I'm making my own choices, doing my own things. And so it's really, really fun. I love online businesses because you have that freedom. And a lot of times people forget that too. And they tie themselves into like, I just got to be sitting at this desk. And I'm like, no, you don't. So I love it because I'm still able to make my own choices. Because think if you work at a 9 to 5 and I was like, well, by the way, today I'm going to take a 2-hour lunch and then I might nap on the couch because I have a headache. And then I'm just going to get a whole bunch of shit done. They'd be like, no, you're not. You're going to sit here for the hours I tell you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the awesome parts is being able to still be in contact with each other, even though we're kind of still like living our own lives. And in fact, like while she was slacking me this morning, I was walking along the river by my house and taking time for myself. So it was, a time that I can take care of me, and then I can take care of other things for work. And to go back to when you were talking about before of like the business relationship, I think that part of that key to that business relationship is being very self-aware of what you are and how you react and how you're, what your feelings are. So if it's something that you haven't been able to achieve that kind of level of self-awareness, which we're all kind of working on anyway, I mean, if I was going to give you any, like, where should I start looking for a business partner, is like, well, start looking, start with yourself almost, because you have to know yourself well enough to be able to tell someone how you're going to, react in certain situations, or so that you can work together really well.
Yeah, I think it's so critical. Self-awareness is key because you have to present yourself a certain way, and also they'll see it. You see the good, bad, and ugly in everyone you work with, especially your partners in business, and there's that appreciation of all the differences, and also when space is needed, right? Like, it's how you set boundaries, knowing that I might slack you every other minute, but if you have that boundary of you'll respond to me when you have the time because you manage your time the only way, I'm not going to be taking offense to it and like stalk you and go message you on Facebook and then message you on Instagram and be like, dude, why are you responding to me? Like, that might be your style to be constantly in contact, but the other partner has to say, no, like, I will get to you when I get to you. You got to understand that I'm always on the ball. I will always be there, right? But there's that energy and understanding between you. Obviously, you guys have been working together for a while now, so you know each other's styles. But it's so critical to just give each partner or each service even you engage with, grace to understanding how y'all operate in order to find the best out of the whole, which is just really, that's really awesome to see in action between the two of you. But I know our listeners will benefit as well, because it's something that you can get stuck on and stop putting yourself forward because of something you misunderstood, between who you're working with, which is great. So tell me a little bit about now what your focus is, where you're trying to take your business, who you're trying to reach out to. So, our listeners know how to connect with Badassery Mag and also join in on listening to your podcast as well. But really, what are your goals right now and what are you going after?
So our goals right now is, just because we're online doesn't mean we're an online business. And so we really try to get people to get together in real life. And so we've started hosting more in real life events. So we've been able to travel and do that. And so we have quite a few coming up in the future. So when we talk about Badassery Magazine, we do produce magazine type content and stuff like that, but that's not really who we are. We're really just like that global support community. And we literally do have a global audience. So it's realizing that this world right now that we're talking in is very flat. It's a flat screen. I know you have depth to you, but I don't know more than what you tell me in this conversation. But when people start coming together, especially women, I like to say that the witch burning days are over and it's okay for us to help each other again. So we're really, really pushing towards a community that is more than just this online world, and that it has a lot of depth and meaning to it. So plus, global domination, maybe we'll run for president. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that just focusing on connecting women through transformational experiences, whether that's offline or online or whatever we're doing, that's really what we want to do. And that's kind of our mission, I think, in Badassery land, as I like to refer to it.
I think that's great. And the coming together is so needed, especially if majority of your work is online and, our handheld devices make it so that our businesses pretty much don't turn off unless we choose to. That the coming together and that connection is so needed. And so I can't wait to attend one of the events. I definitely have to check out the schedule and see, how to meet you all in person too and celebrate.
Yeah, and if you go to badasserymag.com, you can always pretty much get a hold of what we're doing, and you can find us everywhere too at Badassery Mag. So it's pretty easy to find us.
Yeah, it is, and it's a beautiful curated site as well, just as your magazine is, which is awesome. But the community is key, and I know you showcase a lot of talent through what you do, and that in itself, that connection to other amazing badasses out there doing what they do is just so cool. That you guys produce that on a daily basis, really, just in your feeds and following you guys. And it's really awesome. So I want to thank you both for putting yourselves out there and making this amazing community effective for everyone who joins. It's so key. I would love for each of you just to let folks know how best to connect with you, follow. Of course, they'll go to your site and we'll put things in the show notes. But like if you're, you want more connection on Insta or, each of you have different accounts, etc. So what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Really just at Badassery Mag. Cool. And then, and our handles are all at Badassery Mag too. So, and then I would definitely recommend coming over on Facebook and then getting in our Facebook group. We are Badassery. That's a really fun place. And we're in there live. We do all sorts of, throw the glitter, make it rain, pass out shots, anything we can do.
I love that. And then before we close today's conversation, I'd love to ask this question. I mean, you defined what badassery is, but how would you define who a badass is?
I think someone is a badass when they are truly themselves and they love it and they're not apologizing for it. And it doesn't matter what other people think. They only really are, they just love themselves for who they are. And that's what makes them badass.
Samantha?
So to me, I think badass is kind of defined in your daily actions. And so, today, like maybe I needed a day where I didn't do anything because I've been overworked. And so that to me is living like my badass self, And then maybe there's days where I go out and I just like conquer and slay a whole bunch of stuff. That's being my badass self. So I think the more that we can appreciate that success isn't a journey, success is a journey. It's not a location. And so when we honor that, I feel like you're truly being a badass and living in your own badassery.
I love that. You both are true badasses and stand in the definition of what you just gave me. And I really appreciate you joining today. And I know our listeners are going to benefit from it as well. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and more to come, I'm sure.